Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good pal, Ty Franck. And today we're doing a green shirt day. Today is.
I'm glad you wore the green shirt I laid out for you. Yeah,
of course. What do you think? I'm not going to wear what you lay out for
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And also I'm glad that you didn't wake me up when you got up this morning.
Not a dick.
Laid it out. Yeah. You're thoughtful. Who directed this episode? Jeff Woolly Mammoth.
Of course.
Jeff Woolnow.
Of course. Because it was expensive and hard to make, and we always give those to Jeff.
Yeah. He's the come through kid.
Well,
that's what we like to call him.
He's what we call the on time and on budget kid. You know, we all love Breck. We give him a lot of stuff to do, but nobody would call him the on time or on budget kid.
This was a special episode for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's my favorite episode of this season. And I watched it recently, and I think it was very good. I was moved by it on a lot of different levels. Number two, it's where this world famous podcast that's taken the world by storm. It's where it's got its name. Ty and That Guy.
Is 8 people considered taking the world by storm?
Well, they all live in different countries.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So this is a global phenomenon, a global success. And did you find out we got some new listeners? Because you said 8. And also what makes this episode special is this is the episode that Cronenberg came to visit. And I remember to this day did we talk about this on the podcast yet?
I think we did talk about when he showed up and hung out on set.
I don't think we talked about it on air. I think we were talking about it off air. Anyway, the scene where me, Steven, and Prax are in IO, and we go into the medical room where the computer and everything is, and we're trying to find where May is, and we tap into the surveillance, and we see her running. Well, as we're shooting that scene, I walk out, and I see Cronenberg sitting by the camera, and he's sitting there, and he's watching, and I was like, it was such a surreal moment. Nobody told me he was coming. And Ty, we've spent hours talking about his movies and, things that we love. And, I spent hours just talking about The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum, The Fly. And so I saw him, and it just, and I knew you were a big fan. And I know Narain, our showrunner, is a big fan. And for a split second, I was like, is he directing an episode? Like, is he here prepping for the next thing? And like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it was really cool to get to meet him and see him. Why was he there again? He was friends with,
Manny Danilon, who is our line producer, his assistant, who has been, I think she's been his assistant every season, Michelle. She used to be Cronenberg's assistant. She used to work for Cronenberg, and they became friendly. So when she was talking to him and she said, "Oh, hey, I'm on a new show," I think that's how he wound up finding out about the show and coming over to hang out. He also gave me a signed and personalized copy of his book while he was there, which is cool.
What was the book?
It is called... I read it like 5 years ago, so I think it's called Devoured.
Is it a science fiction book?
No, it's horror. It's a Cronenberg. Has weird sexuality and cannibalism and, typical Cronenberg shit.
Playing all his favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And all those notes. So our fearless team, the Rocinante team, is on IO, and we just saw all the hybrids get launched. And Avasarala knows that this is Aaron Wright's war and that those things are going to Mars. And now we're watching those things shoot to Mars, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. So Alex takes the railguns and he puts in a tracer and he tries to shoot them all out of the sky, but the railgun runs out of ammo, and there's a lot that got by. And so a few of those hit the Agatha King.
Yeah, one of them actually gets hit by PDC fire from one of the other ships and goes off course and slams into the Agatha King. Yeah.
And at this time, Dr. Strickland sees that they have now that IO, that there's that there's Martian soldiers on IO, which they think because we're in Martian armor. And Mal's like, all right, we're done. Gig is up. Let's turn it in. And Strickland was like, no. We got these children here. We can use, they're not going to shoot at us. And we still have time to escape and get away. And we can use these children as a way to escape.
I do have to say, though, about that earlier thing, I do love in-world how much automatic respect the Martians get, because the bodyguard says, that's a Martian Corvette. Those guys are wearing Martian body armor. This is a Martian assault team. We're done. Like there's not even a question. It's like, the Martians just landed an assault team. We're fucked. Like there's not even like we might be able to fight back or anything. It's just over.
Right. It's like Arnold and the team in Predator, like that, the chopper.
Yeah.
Chopper landing. Carl Weathers and Arnold landing, and it's like, we're fucked.
We're fucked.
It's just like, what are you going to do?
Or like, if you're like a drug dealer and you're like, some guys just pulled up outside, it's SEAL Team 6. Well, I guess we're fucked.
So what's interesting to me, and one of the things that I love best, and everybody knows that you and I are horror fans, and when The Expanse, like this, I mean, this episode hit all the notes. There was moments where it was frightening. There was moments where it was poignant and really emotional, and we had the reconciliation of the team. But what I really enjoyed is when the protomolecule hit the Agatha King, and I just want to throw a quick shout out to Sidney Meyer because I thought she did a really good job, and this goes back to what we talk about all the time about actors that have one scene and they can come and just elevate it and make it so much more interesting.
And Sidney has done more for us than that one scene because she also, when we were doing table reads for scripts, Sidney got hired by the casting agency to come sit with us at the table reads and read parts that we didn't have actors for yet. So Sidney has more involvement with The Expanse than just this one part. So she's been a real asset to our team all along.
Now, was she somebody that came on to help us with our table reads, and then you guys cast her from that?
No. We actually cast her before. So we cast her for this part, and she did a great job at the reading and with the casting agent. And so when we were looking for people to do the table read with us, we told the casting agent, some of those people we've cast before, we really like how they do a reading. Are any of them available? And Sidney was one of those people. So we got Sidney to come out and do a table read with us. And the guy who came out with her was the guy who played Bobby's boss in season 4. Yeah. So Bobby's boss in season 4 and Sidney from season 3 both came out and did table reads with us. And they were both great. So again, if you're an up and coming wannabe actor, this is the kind of work that you can get that really gets you in good with producers and directors and productions, is being willing to do that kind of work, come out and do a table read with the cast or that kind of thing. We really remember those people fondly. So that's a great way to get your foot in the door.
So when the camera was going through the Agatha King and you see the aftermath of the protomolecule, it kind of reminded me of like something that would be an Event Horizon or something like that. And I always find those things the most interesting. And I've said it on the show, is as opposed to seeing it happen, what's really interesting is seeing the aftermath. You see the camera floating and there's bodies thing and protomolecules growing on their face, and you see this, and Cotillard wakes up from his sleep and he was unconscious and he's floating in the air and he's bleeding out of his mouth and he's trying to figure out what's going on. All of a sudden she comes busting in the door and this guy is chasing her and he's trying to kill her, and she's fighting him off, and you can see she's trying to figure out why this person who is her fellow soldier is trying to kill her in this moment, and she's fighting him off, and she ends up having to kill him. So my question to you is one of the things I'm trying to understand about the protomolecule, because later, which we'll talk about, Bobby Draper is involved in a protomolecule monster as well, and they seem to behave different at different stages. What my understanding of the protomolecule monster is that if you are a threat, if you were trying to take it out, then it will engage you. But if you're not a threat, if you're not bothering it, it's not interested in you. But this guy was like Mike Myers. I mean, he was hell bent on killing her. So is there?
Well, when you first get infected, the initial infection can show up in a lot of different ways. I mean, we based the protomolecule infection off of Ebola. I had done a bunch of Ebola research before we wrote the first book, so we based a lot of it on Ebola. It gets in there. It starts melting your brain. When your brain starts melting from the infection, you can act out in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of sort of chaos in that early part. We saw that, in the early seasons when Miller and Holden found the infected people, and some of them were catatonic, some of them were like trying to grab them. It's your brain is melting in your head, and that's going to cause a lot of weird behaviors.
Now, in the book, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but in the book, and at that point when Miller and Holden find the protomolecule people that were just newly infected, they called them vomit zombies, and they were vomiting.
Yeah.
And you guys didn't do that in the show. Did you just kind of want to stay away from the zombie thing, or
no, you
didn't want everybody thrown up?
That was Sharon Hall thought it might be off-putting if we had a bunch of these people puking on each other.
Yeah.
So she didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Obviously Thomas Jane wasn't in that decision because he loves
Tom loves to throw up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He when we were shooting his scenes on Arrows, he just had like a prop guy following him around with cups of what was it, mushroom soup? I think just mushroom soup that he could puke up whenever he wanted. Yeah, they didn't want to do that, but yeah, again, that's all taken from Ebola. There's a moment in the Ebola infection that they call the vomit zombie stage, where your brain has melted, your internal organs are melting, and you're still ambulatory. You can still walk around, but the whole time you're walking around, you're just puking your own internal organs up. And the stuff that you're puking up is the most infectious substance on earth. If that stuff gets on you, you have Ebola. So we kind of based it on that the initial protomolecular infection melted your brain and made you puke. And then everybody you puke on also gets infected.
One thing that made me laugh is when Sidney Meyer, when she realizes that Courtyard it has his handcuffs, and she's like, "Why are you handcuffed?" And he says, "Listen, I know what this is. This promoleculin is bad. And you got it on you, and basically you're going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no stopping it." So she decides in the emotional to free him. Now, she's literally point blank and just unloads a clip. And you look at the little handcuff, and it's just this little cord, this little string holding the handcuff. And when she did that, it's like, there's no way Cortazar is not dead. Like, she unloaded a clip to take off this thing. Like, he's catching a bullet in the leg or something. She's literally pointing the gun at him. The cord is here. And there's no bullet shots or anything, but somehow she hits that cord. What do you think about that?
I don't think that he would definitely get hit.
What do you mean? Like, he holds up a cord, it's like this, and she just starts unloading at him. She's like,
it's off to,
tears are falling out of her eyes.
You should rewatch. It's off to the side of his body.
I saw it recently.
Yeah.
Joseph, who's so good at this, he's gonna put in a clip here.
Joseph should put in the clip.
Put in the clip, because I might be wrong. But because I saw it and I was like, what the fuck? How is he not dead? She unloaded that rage and shot that little string. That whole clip didn't hit the chair, didn't hit him, didn't hit anything around him, but it did shoot that little little
it hit
piece
the
of
wall
string
behind him.
Oh yeah, I think it did. I think it did have some squibs on the wall there. So now Amos, Brax, Holden, and Draper are on a mission to go find May, but Bobby is hoping that she finds a hybrid there. She wants to take out all that emotion and that anger and that rage that she had from that hybrid killing her whole squadron, her whole team.
Yeah.
The scene that I love is the tension. They're on IO. Around every corner, somebody could be there to kill them. It's enemy territory. Tension is high. Prax needs to find his daughter. He doesn't know if his daughter's alive or not yet. And they get there, and you feel this tension, you feel this momentum, and then they go in an elevator.
Yep.
And it's kind of that thing where, when you get in an elevator and you're just kind of like, just watching the floors go down, and then it's a muscle memory thing. When every time you get in an elevator, it becomes casual because you're going to look at the thing. I love it. It reminds me of in Big Trouble in Little China when they're all fired up and they just drank that stuff and they get in there and they're in the elevator. And kind of looking around, he's like, feeling pretty good. And you're like, yeah, feeling pretty good.
Well, he just had magic potion, man.
Yeah, he had the magic potion, whatever. Yeah. But anyway, they're sitting in that elevator, and they're, and Holden was telling the story about the watermelon and the girl in the thing or whatever. Then ding, ding, doors open, and it's fucking on. And they walk into an ambush and start going there.
I do like how we've had probably, at this point, 2 or 3 moments in the show where Prax would be dead if Amos wasn't there to push him down so he doesn't get shot. Like, Prax is trying so hard to get shot. He really wants to get shot. And every time he goes out and tries to get shot, Amos shoves him down and, like, stop trying to get shot, man. And this is another one of those moments. He's like 4 people shooting at him. He's just standing up trying to shoot back. Amos shoves him down.
Prax just comes out blazing, man. He's like Sidney Meyer unloading a clip into Cortazar. So Bobby takes him out, and one of the great things about this episode too is that you really get to see the suit, do some cool things. And she detects and comes across a protomolecule monster. Now, was I right about her motivation? Why is she so hell-bent on engaging this protomolecule monster?
I think, like everything else in life, it's a combination of things. I think she honestly does believe that she can distract it long enough that the rest of the team can rescue the kids. She honestly does believe that. She can draw it off. She can make it chase her. They can get the kids. So I think that's pretty altruistic. At the same time, I think you're 100% right. she's got a lot of PTSD. She's got a lot of shit she needs to work out. And in typical, recon Marine fashion, she is going to work out her issues by killing the shit out of something.
Does she know that the bullets are not going to... I'm trying to remember back to when she had an exchange with him. Does she know the bullets are going to be ineffective with the hybrid?
Well, she actually, if you remember the scene in episode 5 where they're gearing up, she's going through the ammo that the Rocinante has in its stores, and she pulls out incendiary rounds. Mm-hmm. So she's changing out the ammo that her suit carries, and it believes that incendiary rounds are more likely to do damage than the armor-piercing rounds. So, and you'll notice when she shoots stuff. Now, this is Tim Barabal and our special effects crew. They had special squibs set up for whenever Bobby shoots anything during the whole IO thing. If you've got clever eyes, if you're watching closely, every time Bobby shoots something, whatever she shoots stays on fire a little bit, and that's because now she's using the incendiary rounds.
But those aren't effective as well.
Well, they certainly do more damage than armor-piercing rounds would do.
So it slows it down a little bit. It's kind of like T2.
Yeah, it has to, because it heals quickly, but it still has to heal the damage. And when the incendiary rounds go through it, they leave these burned channels where the bullet went through, and it takes longer to heal that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, how badass is this suit? Like, who would win between her and Iron Man?
Iron Man.
Yeah. So the suit isn't that badass.
No,
it's more realistic.
It's Iron Man's suit can do anything.
Yeah.
Bobby's suit makes her a little stronger than normal. It gives her the little jump jets so she can jump a little farther than normal, and it has a gun built into the arm. But that's pretty much all it does. And it's very, very, very bullet resistant.
Very bullet resistant.
Yeah. So
those jump jets.
Yeah.
Those jump jets are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch. And so they have this big showdown between her and the proto-molecule monster. So it's basically they ended up in the same position that she was on Ganymede, with the proto-molecule was looking over her.
Yeah.
And they're kind of face to face. And she's wondering why it's not killing her, why it's not finishing the job. And the proto-molecule monster sees something, it distracts him, and she raises up the gun and shoots off the back of his head, which kills the proto-molecule monster.
Yeah.
Is it like a zombie where you could take out the head and it could kill the...
Yeah, I mean, it's much tougher than a zombie, of course, but what she does there is she completely severs the brainstem from the spinal cord. Mm-hmm. She cuts its head off at the back, and the idea was that no matter how tough you are, you're not gonna be able to keep going after that.
So you can kill the proto-molecule if you sever the spinal cord. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to kill it. I mean, the Rossi killed it by putting it in its drive cone and burning it up. She kills it by severing its head. I mean, they're not invincible. They're very tough and they heal very quickly, but they're not immune to all damage.
What did the proto-molecule monster see that caused him to hesitate?
Fans have their theories, and I don't want to squash anybody's theory that it saw that the work was completing on Venus, or it started communicating with the rest of the proto-molecule hive or whatever. There's all of that. My feeling was it's the moment where the child comes back out, because, deep buried under all the bullshit of proto-molecule stuff, there's still a little kid in there. There's still Katoa's in there somewhere, right? And if you think about a kid who has grown up like he grew up on the moons of Jupiter, which he did, there's this moment where he's outside for the very first time. He's never been outside before. And there's Jupiter up in the sky, and there's the landscape of this moon. I feel like it's the kid in him looking around and going, amazed at this sight that it's seeing, that it's never seen before.
What made it so sad for me is that the proto-molecule monster still had kid-like movement, gestures.
Yeah.
And even when she was shooting it, it was almost like it was curious.
Right.
About what was happening to it and then what was going. And it made it so sad, and she blew its head off.
Yep.
And you look and be like, man, that was Katoa.
Yep. And on that note, for people who want insider info, there was a lot of conversation about that with the studio and with the network. When we delivered the drafts of that script where Katoa is killed, we got several people coming back with notes like, this is a kid. We all know this is a kid. Is there some way that he could be saved? Does she have to kill him? Is there some way that he could be saved? They wanted to soften it, right? You'll know that happens a lot with studio network notes. They want to soften things. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or turn anybody off. So they want to soften it. And I understand the impulse. But Narain, to his credit, went back to them and said, no, this is a story about child soldiers. And the tragic reality of when you turn children into soldiers is that many of them die. And we're not going to shy away from that. We're not going to back away from it. We're going to confront that face on. So we pushed back on that note and kept that beat in the story that, yeah, this is a child soldier, and yep, he gets killed.
Good job, Narain. So Amos, Holden, and Prax are now in the facility that they were keeping the kids. And they tap into the computer and they tap into the surveillance and they see the kids with Dr. Strickling running one way. And Dr. Strickland. Dr. Strickland running away. And they see Pierre Mal, running the other. And so Amos and Prax go after Strickland and Holden goes after Mal. And Dr. Strickland and the medical tech, which is played by the actress Nicole Stamp, did a wonderful job. They go inside. He gets all the kids in the airlock. And I got to say, Ty, I think Dr. Strickland is probably the worst guy that we've had on The Expanse.
He's a pretty bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, yeah.
And, then I know what happens, but I was even like, whoa, I forgot about that. So basically, Prax and Amos are closing in on him. So he has his med tech who's been with him through this whole thing and who's helping him through this whole thing. He shoots her in the back and he's like, and then he drops the gun. He's like, no, I got her. And you know what that is, Ty? What is that, Ty?
I know what that is. It's cold-blooded.
What is it? Cold-blooded.
And he's doing it just to make himself look like a good guy.
And doing it to make himself look good and save his own ass. And those kids in the airlock, he was going to do whatever he had to do to protect himself and protect his work.
Yep.
And I think he's one of the only characters that doesn't have a redeeming quality. I mean, he's a terrible, terrible person.
He has no redeeming qualities.
So one of my favorite moments in this whole episode.
I mean, he is a good pediatrician, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Prax, had him around. Yeah, I mean, he was a bright guy. He really accomplished a lot. He was ambitious and probably would have done well in another circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
So Prax brings May to Amos, and on so many levels, because this is the most important person in his life, and this is a very dangerous situation, and he's going to go take care of Strickland, and he brings the most precious thing in his life and puts it in the care and trust of Amos, and that shows how much he trusts Amos. And then he says, this is my best friend in the whole world. And to me, that's one of the most moving moments in this episode, but particularly in Amos and Prax's relationship, because I think at this point, Amos knew that he was trying to do what's right for Prax and trying to look out for him and his daughter, but I don't think he was aware that he was building a friendship. I don't think he's ever had a friendship.
It took him by surprise.
It took him by surprise.
Credit to the actor, what's his name, Wes Chatham, something like that. Credit to that actor. You can see it on his face when Prax says, this is my best friend in the whole world. He just shoots a look over at Prax of surprise. You can see it on his face. He's surprised to hear that. He didn't know that that's what was happening.
And then not only that, he takes his daughter's hand and he puts it in Amos's hand. So it was basically trusting Amos with the most his beating heart outside of his body.
Yeah.
And that level of trust and that declaration of friendship moves Amos in a way that we haven't seen him done before.
Yeah.
And Prax goes in the airlock, and he's going to do what he thinks he has to do. He's going to have to take out Strickland.
Well, he's been psyching himself up for that.
Right.
He's been telling himself that's what he has to do. He's been telling himself that for weeks now.
Yeah.
And getting in the headspace, right? Trying to emulate Amos.
Have you read Billy Summers yet? King's latest book that came out?
I have not.
Well, there's a line in there. So it's about this professional killer, and he's doing his one last job, and the job goes wrong. They try to double cross him, and then he's on the run, and through various, he ends up with this younger girl named Alice, and she ends up becoming a part of his operation in a lot of ways. Spoiler alert if anybody's heard this, but I mean, basically she ends up through circumstances being stuck with him on the run. And throughout their journey together, they end up having a true affection for each other, and he comes to rely on her for getting revenge for the thing that double crossed. But anyway, there's a conversation he has with her because she ends up having to cause harm to somebody, and it starts to change her. And this is somebody that has lived. He was a sniper in Afghanistan, and he's been a professional killer for years, and he knows the toll that taking a life has on his soul and who he is, and it's changed from the inside. And one of his worst fears is that because he has this policy where he only kills bad people, but what he's coming to the realization at the end of the book is that he is a bad person.
Yeah.
And so he desperately wants to protect the innocence of this girl. And he says to her, once you go down this path, it will change you. There's something beautiful inside you and innocent, and you got to save that. And I will do whatever I can to save that and protect that. And so Prax is basically psyched himself up, and he's going to do this thing, and he's prepared to take Dr. Strickland's life. And Amos spares him that. He spares him the weight and the darkness that it'll put on his soul to hurt somebody like that. And what makes that scene work so well is he has this moment of grace with Prax and says, I want to save you from this. But then he turns to Strickland and he's like, but I'm too far gone to not do this. And hence that's where we got the name for this podcast that's taking the world by storm. Global podcast. And Ty mentioned that we have 8 fans now. 8 fans. That's 3 more than 5.
That's
so
good.
We're excited about that.
We're growing fast.
Anyway, that was such a powerful and beautiful moment on so many different levels in so many different ways. And I'm just glad I wrote it. So
I'm glad you did too. It's such a good line. I'm so glad you wrote that line, Wes. It's a brilliant line. I will say something on a technical note, because I've had a number of people ask me this, that they're like, how did Amos get into the room? Because you don't see him come in the room. You don't see the door open behind Prax. In the first cut of this that we did, before the hand comes down on the gun and Amos pushes the gun down and says, you're not that guy, we actually had the sound of the door opening in the background. So, as Prax is, it's a very subjective moment. You're very much in Prax's head in that moment. And it's sort of subjective, and he's standing there, he's got the gun, it's shaking. You heard the door open, and then you saw the hand come down. And what Narain decided is it spoiled the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing the door open signaled you what was about to happen, and it ruined all the moment that followed. So we took it out.
I also think it's covered by the way that the camera works in that scene. Also, it's Prax's, you're inside Prax's head and it's Prax's point of view.
That's right.
He's not going to
very subjective.
Very subjective. He's not going to hear that door open.
Yep.
So there's an angle on Strickland saying his thing, comes back to Prax, you see the door open, goes back to Strickland, rotates around Prax as he's doing it. In that time is when the door opens.
That's right.
So focused on what he's doing.
That's right.
You don't see Strickland's face till after it. So I paid attention to that, and it's fully covered in how it's done.
Yeah, and it was in that camera move that you're describing. That's where we put in the sound of the door opening, because that is the time when the door opens that lets Amos in. But it just, as Narain said, it ruins the moment. It steps on the moment. It signals you what's about to happen. It takes all of the juice out of it. Mm-hmm. And so we took it out. And so, no, Amos is not teleporting into the room. He came through the door just like a normal person would. It's just we took the sound of the door opening out of the mix.
So Alex is hell-bent on stopping these hybrids going to Mars. And him and Naomi end up taking the Razorback. They go up to the Agatha King, and they're trying to hack in because that's how they were launched, from the Agatha King. And the wind made me laugh a little bit because he's just there, just trolling them. Just heckling them as they're doing it, and he's accepted his death, and it goes into a little bit. He talks about how Mars is less than human and subhuman, and really, you can really start to see a part of his psychology of what's motivating him and why he's doing it. And we talked about this last episode: is that his insecurity of Mars and his his hatred of what they did to him, what they did to his ship, but the fact that they beat him, that they're better than him. So once he realizes that he launches those hybrids, he doesn't care. He's like, they can't stop him. We're going to win. This is going to be a win.
I just won the war for us.
And that's what people are going to know, that Admiral Wynn won this war and I beat Mars.
Yep.
And, you see a lot of the dark side, even when we get to Aaron Wright and we get to Secretary General, you see a lot of the dark side of our leaders' psychology. And, you see these insecurities and fears and lust for power and things that have such deadly, bloody consequences for so many innocent people.
Yeah. And
this is one of them. And I thought for a second there, and I couldn't remember what it was, but I thought Alex was going to shoot him. He's like, and Naomi doesn't let him shoot him. Do you think if Naomi didn't stop Alex, would Alex have shot him?
Maybe. I don't know. That's a good question. Alex has not proven to be the kind of guy who shoots people in cold blood. I think if Amos was there, that dude's just shot. Like he would have gotten 2 sentences out and he would have just been shot.
Yeah.
Right. Alex is not really that. We've seen Alex fire guns, but he's always fired guns more defensively.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he's that guy, but I think it could have been justified because his wife and his son is on that planet.
Yeah.
They're releasing these things that he's terrified of.
Yeah.
And this guy is just needling him, and they're not successful on the Agatha King. And they see Cotillard comes over on the closed channel, and basically he's overriding the nuclear reactor, overcharging it so that it'll explode and kill the protomolecules, and they're on the ship, so they got to get the fuck out of there. And that was a beautiful scene. It was an unlikely hero, him coming and sacrificing himself, and I thought that was a really nice self-deprecating, speech where he's like, I thought I was going to say something pithy or something smart, and he goes, I can't think of a goddamn thing, and he just goes, and then the moment with Avasarala, who truly connected with him, and the kind of respect and mutual affection they have for each other. And it was just, it's such a great moment. And it was a great end for his character when they did that.
I know a lot of people were very upset when we killed him off. I know, and I'm not just talking about fans or people who watch the show, like people in like the writer's room and people who worked on the crew. Not only was that a great character, but we all just loved working with Nick.
Yeah, Nick
is just a good guy, and he was a real professional. He was fantastic on set. He was one of those people it's just a genuine pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
And so, like, even down to the last minute, even down to the wire, we're like, is there a way that maybe he gets saved? Like, maybe he gets away and he's okay and we can keep him. But, there's other factors at play there. One was that, Nick is a pretty busy actor. It seemed unlikely we'd be able to keep him for 2 seasons. And we had already developed the story with that ending, and so changing it at the last minute would have has a lot of ripple effects. Just as a measure of how beloved Nick is by the people he works with, we were still trying to figure out how to save him right down to the wire there, just to keep him around.
I wondered that because he's such an interesting character and such a good actor. And one of the things for the people listening is like one of the great things about doing a television show or and something like this is that. Everybody has people they like to work with, right? Yeah. And then, so imagine being able to keep the people around you love being around and then killing off the people that get on your nerves, And I mean, look, that's not to say that, the story dictates people dying or living or anything like that, but you do have some sort of control that, like enjoying being around one another definitely has an impact on the trajectory of your character or what's going to happen.
Being pleasant to work with really helps your career.
Yeah.
It's really good for your career. Now, I will say, though, on a technical note, for people who are interested in how TV shows are made, when you're trying to get actors, specifically actors who are very busy, actors who get a lot of offers, you are much more likely to interest an actor if you give them a closed loop storyline. If you say, we've got 12 episodes that you're going to be in, it starts with this, it ends with this, and they know, so then they can schedule around that. Like, well, I've got a movie I need to do, so I can schedule it for after that. And they can start plugging things into their schedule. It's much easier to get people to say yes if you close that loop for them. That's different if you're a regular, obviously, like you or Steven or Dom, you're going to be in it every season, so you don't have to worry about that. But for an actor, you're just trying
we
to
can we can be as big a dickheads as we want to be.
Yeah, nobody cares. But for an actor you're trying to get that has a lot of offers, being able to offer them a set number of episodes that they're going to do and then it's going to be over makes it much more likely for them to say yes. And so actors, people are like, why didn't they bring so-and-so back? Very often the answer is that's how we got them in the first place, is we told them they were only going to be like for an actor like, so for somebody like Nick or Elizabeth Mitchell, we said, well, you're going to do this many episodes. That's how we were able to get her. Somebody like Jared Harris.
Yeah.
You can't just string Jared Harris along. You can't be like, well, maybe we'll put you in next season. You can't do that. You have to tell him exactly how many episodes he's getting so that he knows exactly what he can schedule for. And so there's a lot of actors like that we really loved. We loved working with them, but we just had to close out their story so that we could get them to agree.
Because if I had it my way, I would have Jared Harris in every episode.
Me too.
Throughout the whole thing. But somebody like Jared Harris, they have a lot of other great things going on. They have a lot of schedule. Also, there are people who get to a certain point in their career where they don't want to do long-term jobs.
Yeah.
They don't want to, be a part of something for it. They want to, because there's something exciting about being a part of something new. You get to tell the story. It's a new character and everything, and then finish it and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to staying for something for over a long period of time. And
now there are exceptions to that, and sometimes they're really cool. So we got David Strathairn for, I think it was like 6 episodes of season 3. That was all he was supposed to do. He was supposed to do 6 episodes of season 3, and that was it. That was all we could get him for, right? He had so much fun working on the show that he asked, he's like, is there any chance that Ashford could come back for season 4? He's like, and we were like, fuck yeah, he could come back for season 4, David Strathairn. So like sometimes people are like into it. They're like, yeah, I want to come back, which is great. Yeah. So we wound up getting 2 seasons out of David Strathairn, which is twice as much as we expected to get. And it was fantastic.
I mean, what a great gift he really classed it up, Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
he classes up the joint for sure.
He classes up the joint. And, it would be really cool to talk to him on the podcast. I wonder if
he's very private. He's really hard to get him to do stuff.
He is, and he's he's definitely not. So he's not like a blabbermouth like I am or something like that. Like he kind of likes to kind of keep to himself and do his own thing. But he is a phenomenal actor. I mean, I go back and even when we started working with him, I started thinking about all the stuff that he did and watching him, and he's special in everything he does.
He has been consistently great for his entire career.
And that's to be consistently at that level for that long. And that's probably why he conserves his energy. He might, and he's one of the most humble, just truly authentic, good guys.
Yeah.
He's a special person, when you talk to him.
One of the most flattering things that has happened on the show is when he expressed interest in coming back for a second season.
I know.
Because he didn't have to do that.
Even hearing that now, it's kind of like my face turns red. Where like like the pretty girl at the party, says hello to you.
Right?
It's like, oh wow, he said he wanted to come back. He had a good time with the show.
That was pretty flattering.
So Naomi has an idea on how to stop these protomolecule hybrid monsters that are going to Mars, and this is one of those moments where it's a reconciliation moment between her and the crew because she basically says, look, I do have an idea. Fred Johnson has all those UN missiles. And if we give him the coordinates, he could take those things out. But we have to trust him. But I'm not going to do this unilaterally. I'm going to do it if all the crew agrees with it. And it was such a moment of trust between the group, and they decided, and that was the thing that really brought the crew back together and restored, in some capacity, in Amos's case, trust back in her.
Yeah.
And that was a nice moment, and Fred Johnson came through and took out the promolecule monsters. And then Holt and Naomi got a little bedtime in there, a little naughty time, a little naughty time. But she tells Holden that she's leaving. She said, it's still time, and I'm still going, I'm still leaving. Where's she going?
Well, we will see in the next episode where she wound up going. She has been reconnecting with what she wanted to be in Belter Society for a season and a half now, and realizing that there are things that she felt like she hadn't finished. Because, of course, when she fled to the Canterbury after she left her abusive home situation and fled and wound up on the Canterbury, that she really was literally fleeing. So she didn't get to finish anything. She didn't get to put a period on any of the sentences there. So she's still got that in her, that there's things that she wanted to do as a belter and for belters that she never got a chance to do. And she wants to go and try that. She wants to reconnect with that part of her life. And one of the consistent themes in The Expanse, spoilers for the rest of this season, is you can't go home again. That when you leave something like that behind, it's never the thing that you thought it was when you go back to it. And throughout The Expanse, we see that, Bobby with Mars and Alex with Mars and Amos with Baltimore and Naomi with the belt. Everybody tries to go back to the places they come from.
Yeah.
And those places don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true in real life. I remember when I got out of the military, and I remember coming home, and it's just like, and the whole time you're so homesick and you miss it so much, and you come back and it's like, oh, the thing that you have in your memory,
yeah,
the thing that you're holding, and the thing that you romanticize as you're there, when you come back, the reality is different, and it's not really good or bad. It's just different, and it doesn't have that nostalgia or that feeling that you thought it would have, and everything has changed, and you realize, like, this isn't my place. I've had different experiences, and I need to find what that place is, but this isn't it anymore.
And for you had gotten a glimpse of what your future was going to be, because you had your first acting experience while you were in the military. And I think, and you have said to me before, that's when you got bitten by the acting bug. Is this? I would like to try to do this. That I think this could be my career. You've seen what you want to be, and you go home, and who you are at home is not that person.
Yeah. Well, I got bit by the storytelling bug.
Yeah.
Way, way earlier, and way, way younger. But I got bit by the bug that, oh, this could be possible. Something like this, because before it was too out of reach to even enter the realm of possibility.
Right. You can't go back. Once you've seen it and it feels achievable, you can never go back after that. Well, you can, but you're just miserable.
What was that moment for you in your corporate world? Like, what was that moment of, like, when you first tasted that writing bug and creating a story, when you were like, I can't go back and then you grew your hair long and...
No, I just didn't want to work anymore. I didn't want to have a day job. It had nothing to do with writing. Writing was kind of a hobby, but I didn't think I was going to make a living as a writer. I was part owner of a company. I wanted to sell my part of that company. My wife was getting ready to go to architecture school. I was like, all right, I'm just going to live on my money that I get from selling the company. And then my wife can go off and become an architect, and I'll be a house husband. I'll make dinner, do the laundry. Like, I just don't ever want to be in an office job ever again.
That's interesting.
The writing thing was just an accident.
I didn't know that. I thought you left your corporate job because you wanted to do so. So you left your corporate job because you were like, I'm done. Fucking done. I'm done.
I was done.
Like, I'm going to live beneath my means, and I'm going to be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want to do it.
Yep.
And then writing was more of a hobby that you did with, your good buddy Daniel, or creating games and stuff like that.
It was just for the fun of it.
And then that's really interesting. So how did the George R.R. Martin thing happen? Was that...
So I don't know if this is going to be interesting to anybody but you. But yeah, when we moved to New Mexico so that my wife could go to UNM, she went to the architecture program at UNM. A mutual friend of George and mine, Melinda Snodgrass, had been trying to convince George that he needed somebody to run his company for him, because obviously George had gotten quite successful and he was still just trying to do everything himself. And he was falling behind on everything. He wasn't getting his books written. He wasn't getting his business stuff taken care of. There was just too much of everything to do. And she'd been trying to convince him to hire somebody. And he said, no, I'd have to tell them how to do everything. It'd take more time than just doing it myself. And Melinda and I had done some consulting work with Melinda. She has she's president of a natural gas company. And I had done some consulting with her. And I think I must have impressed her with my business acumen, because she went to George. She said, hire that guy. He already knows everything. You won't have to teach him anything. And George said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I had started to realize that Janae was not going to be satisfied with 4 years of school. She was probably going to go for like a master's or PhD. And I was like, I probably should make a little money. So I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And that's how I wound up working for George for 7 years.
Fucking wow. I mean, what an amazing story. And then through that group of friends, that's how you met Daniel.
Yeah, and that's how I met Daniel. George was in one of the first Expanse role playing groups.
Right.
George had a Belter character,
Mm-hmm.
and and then Daniel was in one of the groups, and that's how he and I started working together. Oh yeah. So it's all pretty accidental.
So you didn't have ambition to be a writer before then?
No, I mean I was already a published writer.
So you were always
just a short story.
You were always kind of noodling and stuff, but you weren't like,
Yeah, mostly
like
I wrote game stuff. Mostly I wrote game stuff.
Interesting.
But I had written one short story that got published.
Yeah. And then so you and Daniel wrote the books Expanse, created the show Expanse, and then you met your best pal Wes.
Yeah.
Which you started the global phenomenon, taking the world by storm, tying that guy. Wow, man, this is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So my trick is I never do anything until somebody else asks me if I want to do it, and then I always say yes. So, Melinda was like,
wait,
hey,
you'll do anything?
Do you want to go work for George? And I was like, sure, I'll try that. And then Daniel was like, hey, do you want to write a book? I was like, sure, I'll try that. And then you were the one who reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to do a podcast with me? I've got a great name for a podcast. Hi, and I was like, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I say yes to everything. Is kind of my thing.
Speaking of writing, there's a really great scene with Anna in this episode with Anna Sorrento Gillis and Aaron Wright.
Yeah.
And there's 3 major turns for me within this scene. And if you are able to go against an audience's expectation, but it also be logical and be something that should have been expected the whole way through, that's a really great scene.
Robin Veith calls it surprising inevitability.
Surprising inevitability. And this scene, for me, had 3 really great turns. The first one, Anna's talking to Sorrento Gillis about, and she shows Aaron Wright's confession and saying, are you going to do the right thing? So you sit back and you look at this and like, Sorrento Gillis' fingerprints are all over this. So what is he going to do this? He's going to spin it. So he does what you think would be the right thing. And he calls him in there and he confronts him. He basically is, not standing for what he did. Now, Aaron Wright, he looks at Anna and you're like, oh, he's going to lash out at her. He's going to be, but he doesn't even acknowledge her. Yep. His disgust and anger is towards Gillis because he's so spineless and he sees what is really motivating Gillis anyway. And he's just like, I had to put up with this shit for so long. And the only reason that he is where he is because he talked to you last. And I'm not, because what I did it for Earth. Yep. And you're doing this for yourself. Anna just doesn't fucking see it yet. And so he kind of maintains his dignity and he lashes out and they take him away. And the third turn for me is when Anna goes and was like, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. And this is what it is. And he's like, however, millions of dead people would have been on my shoulders and tarnished my legacy. Now it's on him. And I'm the one that took him down. And the horror in her face.
Yep.
That I believed in this guy over and over and over again, and he's really just a shell of a human.
Yep.
And it was just a really terrific scene.
Now, so here's a process comment for you. So as we've talked about many times on the show, every script is a team effort. Somebody's name is on it, and that's the person who wrote like the first draft of the script and did all the early outlining work and stuff. So that person's name deserves to be on it. But the final script is always a team effort. It always is. And this was one where the original script had a version of that scene, wasn't quite working, and Narain and I and Daniel were in Toronto. And Narain's like, we gotta have a better version of this scene. This isn't working. This isn't good enough. Let's figure out a way to fix this. And he asked me to write a different version of it. So I wrote a different version of it. And we all got together. Narain's like, no, it's not quite right. It's not quite right. Then Narain wrote a version of it. And we all got together. And we were all like, it's still not right. So we gave it to Daniel. And Narain said off the cuff, said, hey, what if instead of talking to Sorrento Gillis, Aaron Wright starts talking to Anna? And Daniel does this sometimes where you'll start to say something and Daniel goes, I got it. And he just left. And then he delivered basically verbatim that scene where Aaron Wright just ignores Sorrento Gillis, just cuts him to shreds, only talking to Anna. like he's like trying to create rapport with Anna. Like, you and I know what an idiot this guy is.
Like, that's just so effective about the scene. It's like this guy's the blanket, the disguise is off, and he's like, fucking, like, this is the shit I've been dealing with. Almost like in camaraderie with her. It's like, this low life piece of shit.
Yeah, he's like, was he this stupid when you worked with him? Like, that's basically what it is. And Daniel delivered that version of the scene, and immediately everybody's like, this is it. That one's right. We finally cracked it. But yeah, it was definitely a team effort there. And Daniel was batting cleanup for us, and he knocked that one out of the park.
Well, that was my favorite episode of this season, and I enjoyed watching it, and it was this has been a fun podcast. So in honor of I Am That Guy, I thought our top 5 list will be our favorite one-liners from movies. And so there's so many, so a way that I think a fun way to kind of get through the pool is I'm going to just read off the lines and then you're going to tell me what the movie is.
All right.
And then
let's see how many I can get.
And then let's just go through it. And then let's go through. Okay. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Well, that's been in a lot of movies, but the original is Gone with Wind, of course.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Well, Godfather.
Yeah, these are obvious, Ty, because it's the greatest lines. Okay,
yeah.
don't
skip the easy ones.
They're all easy, Clint. This is about acknowledging these great lines in movie history and why they are. It's not a trivia game.
The problem is Clint hates joy, and so we're having joy right now with this great stuff, and Clint hates joy.
Speaking of Clint and hating joy,
I don't hate joy. I hate your joy.
And speaking of Clint and hating joy, Ty, we know it's number one, right? The greatest line. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, so it's either yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
That's it. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Die Hard. That's number one. That's for you, Clint. Suck on that joy. Here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah, but that's Casablanca.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a variety of Dirty Harry movies.
Sudden Impact. That one's Sudden Impact.
Yeah.
And this is actually, I should have pushed you on this one because there's two, and they're easy to get confused with Dirty Harry and Sudden Impact. May the Force be with you.
Star Trek.
You talking to me?
Well, Taxi Driver, man.
What we've got here is a failure to communicate.
That is it's Cool Hand Luke.
It's not the Guns N' Roses.
No.
Song.
No.
Yeah. Love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Apocalypse Now by the fantastic Bobby Duvall.
Bobby Duvall. Love me some Bobby Duvall. Love means never having to say you're sorry, which is the dumbest line of all time.
Yeah. That's Love Story, but it is a terrible line.
It's a terrible line. They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Well, that's Heat of the Night, baby.
Rosebud.
Well, I mean, obviously that's Citizen Kane.
I made it to the top, Ma! Top of the world!
Public Enemy.
White Heat.
Oh, that's White Heat. You're right. It is White Heat. I got that one wrong.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Broadcast News.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
Is that one Hollywood Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right, I'm skipping.
Hollywood Boulevard is a seedier movie.
Yeah, it is a much seedier movie.
I'm walking here.
Dustin Hoffman in Midnight Cowboy.
Play it, Sam. Play it again.
Well, Casablanca again.
You can't handle the truth.
Few Good Men.
I'll have what she's having.
See, that's not really my movie, but that's is that Harry Met Sally?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Well, Jaws, of course.
If you build it, you will come.
Well, that sounds like a much darker version than the original, but I Field of Dreams. Yeah.
We'll always have Paris. Casablanca is just such a badass movie. They're all over the place. We'll always have Paris. Casablanca. Stella! Hey, Stella!
That's a Streetcar, right?
Yeah. You got okay. This is what I should have did these back to back.
Yeah.
You gotta ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I mean, it's one of the Dirty Harry movies.
It's Dirty Harry. this is you and I's. This is what you had me at hello. What I said to you when we first met.
Yeah, it's Jerry Maguire, right?
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Wall Street?
Wall Street. Say hello to my little friend.
Oh, come on, man.
Scarface.
Yeah, I know it's Scarface. I'm like, do I need to say it out loud?
I know. All these are so.
Like,
but you look.
One of the most famous movies of all time.
This is not a trivia game. This is honoring these great lines because these lines you have to remember when you first heard them.
That's Scarface, delivered by the fantastic Tony Montana.
Now this one we do on set probably every day. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. Here's Johnny. They're here. No wire hangers.
I know the exact scene you're talking about, but I can never remember the name.
Mommy
of that movie.
Dearest.
Mommy Dearest. That's right.
Forget it, Jake. Chinatown.
Would it be the movie Chinatown?
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Isn't that Streetcar again?
Streetcar. Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. Don't call me Shirley.
Airplane.
Airplane kills me. Yo, Adrian. Toga. Attica.
Dog Day Afternoon.
I feel the need. The
Top
need
Gun.
for speed. Nobody puts baby in a corner.
That's Dirty Dancing, which I have never actually watched all the way through, but that is such a famous scene that even I know that one.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Well, I mean, come on. Tombstone, one of the greatest gunfights of all time.
Do you like apples? Well, I got a number. How do you like those apples?
Good Will Hunting, of course.
Yeah. May the wings of liberty never lose a feather.
Wow. One of the greatest movies of all time.
I'm a pretty reasonable guy, but I've seen some pretty unreasonable shit going on around here.
What's that? 6 Demon Bag. Sensational. What's in it?
Sensational. What's in it? You two douchebags couldn't get laid in the morgue.
Oh, my God. I mean, now you're just going to do every line from Weird Science by...
God damn it. Let's actually make this a fucking game, because if you're just going to read bumper stickers and movie posters...
Clint, let me remind you, the purpose of the top 5 is to honor the greatness of these lines, right? These things... I didn't say we're playing a trivia game.
Okay,
I'm saying we're doing an honorific game.
Can I put another one in there if we're doing badass lines?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
How about I ain't got time to bleed?
That's great.
I ain't got time to bleed. Predator. I should have.
How about I'll be back?
I had that in there.
Are you only doing Schwarzenegger ones? Because I have a favorite Schwarzenegger one.
No, that wasn't Schwarzenegger.
That was a Schwarzenegger.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jesse the Body Ventura, man.
I believe he went by. Excuse me. I'm going through puberty. My voice is changing. I'm getting hair in weird places now. It's very exciting. But I believe toward the end of his career, he went by Jesse the Mind Ventura.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, Clint, hit us with it.
All right.
Now I will say your point is taken that that it should have been the same, like it should have been badass lines as opposed to love means never having to say you're sorry. But I thought of great movie lines and then put it in there, and I should have left that one out. So I
am that guy is just such a great tough guy line. I wanted
so you want tough guy lines.
You've been too busy pushing pencil stealing. Okay, go ahead.
Right. While you were saying bullshit, I was over here making a better list. You ready?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Our savior.
Yeah, that's right. I'm saving this show.
Yeah. We have 8 fans now. Did you hear?
Yeah. I upgraded us to
exciting.
8.
Yeah.
I'll start easy with a movie that was already on the list, but I think a better quote than I'm your Huckleberry. You die first, get it? Your friend might get me in a rush, but not before I turn your head into a canoe. You understand me, Ike?
Obviously.
That's a badass.
Obviously, that's Tombstone again.
You can go.
Well, and another great one from there is like, you're drunk. You ain't hit me. You're seeing 2 of me. I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you.
It's like playing with my sister's kids or something.
Those of you lucky enough to have your lives, take them with you. Leave the limbs that you've lost.
Oh, well, that's Kill Bill.
Such a good line.
Yeah.
Leave the limbs that you've lost?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's the House of Blue Leaves, man. Gonna have to step your game up.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This
Army of
is my
Darkness.
boomstick.
Oh,
yeah.
Army of Darkness.
Actually, it might actually be Evil Dead 2.
No, that's
I'm not
Army
sure.
of Darkness.
You
primitive
it's-
screwheads.
The
Yeah.
end of Evil Dead 2 is in the past as well.
Yeah.
But I always confuse which scene.
That one
which
is
movie that
definitely
scene
Army
is.
of Darkness. Yep.
This one I think is like the most badass line ever, but it's a movie you guys probably aren't going to get. Did you ever pick your teeth up with broken fingers?
I've heard that line.
It's from the Crying Game.
Crying Game. That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
A shockingly badass movie. Forgiveness is between them and God. It's my job to arrange the meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know this one.
I know it. Hold on.
Tony Scott film,
Man on Fire?
Mexico City,
Man on Fire?
Man on Fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great movie.
See, I don't like Tony Scott's Man on Fire. I prefer the original with Scott Glenn.
Oh, I love Tony Scott's Man on Fire. I like the original too.
I hate that hyperkinetic editing style that he was doing at that point in his career. I hate it.
But then
It didn't become insufferable to me until Domino.
Domino is literally unwatchable.
yeah. But Denzel and Dakota Fanning's chemistry is so good in that movie that it makes it. And I love the premise.
We've talked about Man on Fire before, and I believe that what I said last time was Denzel Washington is maybe one of the greatest actors in American history, and I will watch him do almost anything. So, yes, Denzel's amazing in that movie. I still hate the editing, though.
He sticks a grenade up a man's asshole in that movie. Or is it C4?
It's
Might be
C4. It's C4. It's not a grenade.
Yeah.
It's so hot.
We're going to go out on one that is deeply in your wheelhouse, guys. Get away from her, you bitch.
Oh, come on,
Aliens.
man. We're not going to get Aliens.
Okay, a harder one. This one also has bitch in it. Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Well, that's Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Ghostbusters. There we go. See, you don't have to do all the movie posters, and they're still pretty obvious, Wes. Just got to hit people where they live.
It's about honoring great lines.
Okay, but still, I think Wes would agree with me. He and I have said this line to each other many times. You could have throw down, boy, or are you just going to stand there and bleed?
Yeah, you going to draw that smoke wagon, boy? You're going to stand there and breathe. All right, so far, Yippee-Ki-Yay is number one.
Yeah, right. Honoring great lines. Number one, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker is a great line.
Just to piss Clint off. The thing is that Yippee-Ki-Yay motherfucker, like, that's what got people's attention to Bruce Willis and Die Hard in the first place, because that was in the trailer.
Yep.
And that kind of New York tough guy, a cop coming in, it was, there wasn't too many action heroes at the time that were like that. Like, he smoked cigarettes and drank coffee all day, and he had this like New York kind of toughness, sense of humor, and that's what separated. So yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Except every tough guy hero of the 70s.
So, number two, you're going to need a bigger boat. You got to put Jaws in there. Are we agreement?
I mean, you're going to need a bigger boat is a pretty great line. I don't know if it's a particularly tough guy line. It's because it's said in a moment of absolute panic fear. But it's a great line.
That's a good point. I mean, if we're doing tough guy, I mean, I'm Your Huckleberries, would you say is the number one? Because you could choose, you got to take one from one movie. And I'm Your Huckleberry might be Tombstone's.
I'm Your Huckleberry's pretty good, but isn't anybody here willing to play for blood? And Doc says, those are just my stakes.
Oh, yeah.
I was like that one, too.
I think Huckleberry trumps that one. You know what's definitely on there is the outlaw Josie Wells when he's like, just making a living. Because dying isn't much of a living. Dying isn't much of a living. So dying isn't much of a living. Are you done, Clint? That's all you had after all that time?
I mean, we should wrap the show up at some point. You want me to keep throwing out movie quotes that you know?
No, unless there's one that you think could be in the top 5.
Which movie is it where the guy comes up behind Clint with the knife, and Clint says, you're going to look awful funny with that thing sticking out of your ass?
What's the Clint movie where he goes, there's two kinds of people in the world. Those with a gun and those who dig. You dig.
Isn't that Good, Bad, and the Ugly?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I ain't got time to bleed.
That's pretty badass.
That is badass. All right, we're looking for 5th place. Is it I ain't got time to bleed?
I mean, I got to agree with Clint that "Get away from her, you bitch" is one of the more badass lines in cinema history.
I agree. Let's do that. And that's.
And all Cameron movies have a bunch of those lines, because another fantastic badass line that's just thrown away in that movie is when Michael Biehn pulls out his pump shotgun and goes, "I like to keep this handy for close encounters."
Yeah. Yeah, James Cameron has some great ones. But Sigourney Weaver, man. Did you know that Frankie's working with Sigourney right now?
Oh, really? On what?
Yeah. This new Australian show that Sigourney's doing.
No shit.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. And she's a wonderful person. Really, we did that pilot together. She's super cool.
Frankie keeps threatening to introduce me to Taika Waititi, and she keeps failing to do so. So I got a bone to pick with Frankie.
Well, listen, all 8 of you, and it feels so good to say 8. We're growing. We're growing every day. We're going to be something. We're going to be somebody, Ty. Your mother was wrong, and your wife was wrong. We're going to be somebody. They're going to believe in us. Thank you guys for hanging out, and thank you for all the support, and we appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.